Why, hello.
Hey there. So we were homilized about this weekend.
We were, I suppose.
Well, our 5-year-old was homilized about this weekend.
Yep.
Wasn't expecting that.
Nope, I got nervous for a sec.
I know you were thinking you turned beet red when you were lecturing, but I'm pretty sure I turned beet red when I was sitting behind Father, and I hope nobody could see me.
No, because I tried to make eye contact with you a little bit.
Oh.
And Terrence and I were making giggly eye contact a bit.
Yeah, he was giggling
fine.
about it, and I was trying not to giggle about it. One, the fact that we're in the homily, and then two, it's about our son.
Yep. And it's about the sin of pride.
Yes.
Well, what I was going to say is we discovered something, first Thanksgiving tradition, probably more to come, of essentially we had a lot of pie left over from Thanksgiving dinner and like 2 full fruit pies. And I'm looking at these fruit pies and I'm thinking there's very little difference between this fruit pie and an apple turnover or a cherry turnover. So why don't we have these for breakfast? And so we have the last 2 days. 3 days.
3 days.
We've just been having eggs and potatoes and slice of pie.
Well, we have lots of pie.
It was insane.
Yes, and we just got more. Well, no, those were cinnamon rolls. I was thinking that was pie for my mom. That wasn't.
Nope.
But it's more sweet foods.
For breakfast.
Yes, for breakfast.
That one's more traditionally known for breakfast.
Yes.
But yeah, I think this is going to be a standing tradition of if we have way too much pie left over, we're going to eat pie for breakfast with eggs.
It sounds fine to me.
Yeah,
I don't think the kids will say no.
I don't think so either. No one has been like really upset about this.
No.
Although actually a couple of our kids have not wanted pie, which if you don't want pie for breakfast, that's okay.
Yeah.
Just eat your eggs.
I know. I'm not going to push it on you.
Nope.
Well, I'm Dale.
I'm Kit.
And welcome to Catholic Hitch. We are a Catholic family seeking heaven and hoping to pick up others along the way.
Small talk. So speaking of homily, how did that come about?
So we had one of our vicars over to our house for Thanksgiving. And you invited all of our priests to come over, and one of them said yes. And so surprisingly, we never know, right? You put the offer out there, and he said yes. So we were like, yay, that'll be great. And it just so happened he was sitting on the end with, I think, all the kids.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do a different configuration next time. I realized if the bench had been on the other table, on the other side of that table, that's where all the kids would be. Because they sat at the bench that was closest to the food.
True.
That's the reason that it all worked out that way, right?
Right, because they get served first. So, of course, they're sitting nearest because they want it. And then 2 parents are like, wait, no, sit down. I need to feed you. Just stay closest to me that I can get the food to you before you turn into an utter monster.
So if it had been the other side of the table, it wouldn't have been that way.
I didn't think about that.
I didn't either until it was too late. But then I realized, like, later on. So, yeah, you and I were on the bench, like, farthest away. So we didn't get to partake in very much conversation on that side of the table, although conversation was fine on our end of the table.
Yeah, but I think he and Terrence had some good conversation together, and he enjoyed himself.
Our parochial vicar?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He definitely did enjoy himself.
It was nice it was so unexpected. I just thought on a whim, like, I'm just going to invite all of our priests, who knows?
Yeah.
And one of them said yes right away. And I didn't hear back from another. And then the third, he was going to be out of the area with family, which is appropriate. And I kind of extended the invite as, you probably already have invitations elsewhere, but just in case you don't, you're invited. So, yeah, it was good. So because because he was over here for Thanksgiving, that popped up a little bit in his homily that you're mentioning.
Unbeknownst to us, yes.
Yeah.
But it was a great way to start the season, to remember, okay, we are getting ready for the coming of Christ, and there are things that are going to impede us from being with him. Are you ready to deal with those things?
Yep.
And that was pretty nice to hear. And I guess it's an archdiocesan-wide series of homilies on stuff like that.
Yes.
So we'll see what the rest brings. I don't know.
We mentioned last year we were supposed to have an archdiocesan-wide homily series during Advent.
Which he mentioned in his homily.
Yes. And he was very faithful to homilizing upon the topics that our Archbishop wanted his priests to homilize on, but our other two priests were not super faithful.
Not so much, no.
To what they were supposed to be homilizing on. So we got a very strange patchwork of like lecture homilies whenever we would see him versus other priests. Yep. So it was not strung together. Yep. But I'm hoping it will be different this year.
Yeah, I think it will. And I did hear at least one of our other priests was homilizing on a similar series, like in the same vein. I mean, they're doing their own homilies, but the topic and the subject matter is the same. So
I imagine they're given like a lesson objective, or for lack of better term, that this is what you're supposed to impart and do it in your own words.
Right. And I definitely heard, it was much of the same of, okay, here are the sins that we are dealing with: sloth, pride, envy, and there was one other that he brought up. I can't remember.
Sloth, pride, and envy are the only ones I can think of.
Was that it? Okay.
I think that was it. It wasn't like all the 7
Sorry,
sins.
I always go to the alchemy show that we watched.
Full Metal Alchemist?
Yeah, I always go to Full Metal Alchemist, and
which of
I visualize
homunculi.
The homunculi who all have the names of the deadly sins, and that's how I check the boxes and look, okay, which one is it?
That's useful. Yeah, I suppose I haven't done that personally, but you could totally do it that way.
I'm visual. I'm a visual person.
I guess that makes sense. So for Thanksgiving, we had 17 at a table.
Yeah.
And we used your tables.
Yeah.
That you made me last
worked
year.
Out, and I didn't even realize. So I was telling Father, because he was asking, or it was my mom, one of the two, was saying, how long is this? And I thought all the extensions were in because you had the tablecloths on them.
One extension was out.
Right. So it was 18 feet instead of 20 feet, right?
No,
19 feet. 19 feet. Because one extension was out. Okay. Yeah. And I thought all of them were in, and it was projecting quite a far way.
It was.
I didn't realize it took up that much length when they're all in.
And part of it is because I had it oriented to one side because of the way that I set up the food.
Right. And I did tweak it a little bit. I kind of angled it.
Did you?
Yeah, I angled it so in the far corner it was a little bit tighter to the wall, but then by the time you got out by the oven it was further away, so you could walk around it.
I didn't even notice you did that.
I did it subtly.
Very stealthful.
It was a ninja move.
Yep. If I had noticed, I would have moved it back.
I know. That's why I didn't mention it.
Well, you made me a little nervous. So there was one table that you made that you put hardware in so that the leaves would be attached with hardware to the table.
Yes.
And the other table you never did that with.
Nope.
And so you decided to do that on Thanksgiving morning after I had already set the table. And I was like, if you mess up my table settings, wrath of doom. It
was a busy week. Didn't quite get there. I was very careful.
You were. You didn't mess anything up.
No.
Yeah, there was china and silver and glasses, and then the beautiful runner that I got.
Oh, everything was there.
Yep.
It was all ready.
Yeah, so I was a little peeved that had to happen on Thanksgiving, but you were right. So what could happen without the hardware being installed? Do you want to describe?
So because you sit perpendicular to the long axis of the table, the boards are just like a 1x11, I think or a 2x11, basically what they are, once they're cut down. And if you were sitting where the extension is and you put your elbow down or put your hand or your arm down on that set extension without the mechanical fasteners, the whole thing would flip up. And that actually happened when we had our pastor over, which was what reminded me I need to do this for Thanksgiving because it could be way worse in that situation.
Yeah, that was all you had to do was kind of describe that possibility, and I calmed down a little bit. Thought, okay, that's the better option for you to fix right now. Let's risk the table setting so that we don't have a flip-a table in the middle of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, flip-a table with all of your nice stuff all over the place and food. Yeah, and kids would have done it, probably would have been the culprits.
Yeah, they would flip it into like an elder's face, and then they would break their teeth or, bite their tongue or something. We can make it worse.
Yeah.
But it was nice, and I did very little cooking. It was quite nice.
Yeah.
I worked my butt off before Thanksgiving. I was hurting that Wednesday. I was just on my feet too much with the setup and the cleaning, and I cleaned our entire kitchen down because my brother-in-law cooked.
Yeah.
So I basically said, hey, you can take over my kitchen, do whatever you want. I made Brussels sprouts, and that was part of what made my feet ache, as I sliced probably 6 pounds of Brussels sprouts, destemmed and sliced in half, and got those roasted on Wednesday so that they could just be warmed up on Thursday. But that was my only contribution to Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah. I did dishes.
You bought beverage.
I guess I did that too, but that doesn't take much. It's going into a store and buying.
Well, it was on the day before Thanksgiving, so.
True. Yeah.
It's a little bit of a chore. But yeah, it was a good night. Or good afternoon.
Good day. Yeah, it was a day. I mean, basically from we went to Mass in the morning, then the flurry of activities started happening, and then everybody started showing up at 1, and then I think everybody left about 5, 6-ish, somewhere around there.
And then we had like an extended evening with my sister and brother-in-law.
Yeah, that was a nice
really
surprise.
Fun. We played games. And then actually the next day, so we just turned it into a sleepover with their kids.
Yeah.
And so they came back for breakfast. That was our first pie eating breakfast.
Yes, thus the impetus of pie for breakfast. Why not just do it? Hey, let's have more people eat this pie, not just us.
Well, yeah, I had already determined that we were going to eat pie for breakfast when I saw the pie that was left, and made the connection that it's basically a deconstructed apple turnover. But yeah, we played a lot of games. We played Ticket to Ride. We played an endless game of Phase 10.
Yes.
That I actually won.
Yes.
First time ever. And then we played the next day Munchkins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you win that one?
No. I was close, but there were like 3 of us that were close. No.
Okay.
Tyler won.
Yeah. Okay.
It was well played. We tried to prevent him from leveling up that last time.
It was, we're going to give him a go, and he made it. So,
yeah.
It was good.
So it's been a nice weekend. Kind of a bummer to go back into the normal tomorrow.
Yep. I'll get back into it, and then before you know it, it's going to be Christmas.
Yeah. Although the longest Advent ever that you can possibly have is about to happen.
Bring it on.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah. Big talk?
Big talk.
Okay. So, with me saying yes to things that you recruit me to do, I am doing my first lesson, I guess you'd call it. I don't know if it's called a lesson, but basically I'm helping out with the middle school, which has been really good. It's like everything I tend to say yes to has been life-giving and grace-filled. And so working with our youth minister, I am going to be doing a talk on the kingdom of heaven, which is kind of like one of those things. It didn't really matter what the topic was. It was more like, this date, I actually have enough time to get prepared ahead of time and can like lock it on the calendar and say, I will be here. I will be able to do this. So I don't know, for the last, yesterday and today, probably 2-4 hours, something like that, kind of trying to get ready for this. And she's using, I'm not exactly sure the name of the program, but it's a really interesting format that kind of goes through, okay, here are the things that you need to accomplish. Here's like the condensed form of what should be talked about, and then kind of breaks it down piece by piece scripturally and using the Catechism of the Catholic Church. So I've actually learned a bit about this because, most of the time when we think of the kingdom of heaven and the last judgment and when Jesus comes, we don't think much about that because it's like before Thanksgiving and everybody's busy and you got other stuff going on, and then before you know it, it's Thanksgiving. Oh, well, let's get ready for Jesus to come as a baby, rather than him coming as king. So I figured I could touch through some of the points that I've kind of gleaned from this, and you can tell me how horrible it's going to be.
I'm sure it'll be great.
So what I realized, which shouldn't be a surprise, but the Catechism of the Catholic Church has a wealth of beautiful language that explains what's going to come. With Christ coming, and it points to, the different passages within the gospel, within the book of Revelation, within the Old Testament, where it talks of Christ coming and renewing the earth. I was kind of blown aback because I'd never actually read that before. And so hopefully I'm not going to bore these children, because I am going to read from the Catechism, because I think it's really important for them to hear it. And I'm just going to try to highlight and bullet point a few of the pieces. But in essence, kind of the first piece is, okay, Jesus is coming again. When's that going to happen? We don't know. What will happen when that comes? Well, we have some ideas. So I'm trying to think. It points you to, I want to say not Michael, that other M guy.
Matthew.
Here,
or Mark.
Let's see. I'll pull it up. It's easier.
Yeah, you can go through your presentation.
Well, I won't do that because that'll bore everyone. So Luke, I was totally off. So it points to Luke 21:25 through 28, which is the coming of the Son of Man, coming down upon the clouds, that everybody should rejoice and raise their hands in joy, because the Christ has come to renew the face of the earth, which is, kind of the, oh, wow, this is great and good stuff. It also pointed to, like, the idea of Maranatha, which I don't know if these kids, I think one of them probably in this class will have heard that word, maybe two, and ours would be the second one. I'm not quite sure she knows that word. But I
know which kid you're talking about.
I know you know which kid I'm talking about. But just the whole concept of, like, Lord Jesus, please come. It is a not a plea, but it's a loving call to Christ. Please come. I mean, we're in this in-between time where he has rescued us from the sin, or not this, well, he's saved us from our sin, which brought death into the world. He has rescued us from that. If we are to accept him and to do his will, he will, when he does come again, we will be rewarded in judgment. And so just that sheer small prayer to be able to say Maranatha, I don't think they've known, and I'm going to be happy. And that was in the Catechism in 671. It talks about that. Let's see. It also goes into, again, another section. This is the one I was thinking of, Matthew, where the coming of the Son of Man. Immediately after suffering of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from the end of heaven and to the other. And I tried to find as many cool, beautiful images as I could with this as well. Not that anyone else can see them, at least on
Use
the podcast.
Use your imagination.
Just basically go out there and Google search for the kingdom of heaven, the coming of Jesus, the eternal kingdom, the last judgment. Those are your Google words. You'll get some amazing images. Some of them are really good. Some of them are really bad. I try to use the good ones. But this whole idea of, like, Christ, when he does come, he is going to send down his angels. I mean, it's kind of like in the book of Revelation, where it talks at the beginning of creation, where the dragon wipes his tail and swaths out half of the stars of the sky, or a third of the stars in the sky. It's like the inverse of that He's saying that the stars will fall from heaven, that like it's the angels are coming down from heaven because it is that time of judgment. The battle is been ongoing, but now it is going to become visibly present because Christ is coming. And one thing that I never caught before in any of these, when it talks about how Jesus will basically speak, his word will reckon the final days and the end of history. So to think, like when you think of John chapter 1, the word of God, the word was with God. He spoke and all things come into creation. We will see if we have movie time or not. All things come into creation through him speaking, because by just his voice, or whatever the word is of him, it becomes manifest in creation. And here comes Christ, his son, reigning in the kingdom, saying, it is finished, it is complete and finalized. It is time for the harvest to come in. And that's all the joyful stuff. And then it gets to, okay, well, what's going to really happen at that time? The dead are going to rise. We hope that we'll have a restored body like Christ, but we don't know exactly what it's going to look like. So I'm going to use the zombie reference because I'm sure that's what everybody thinks of when the dead will rise, coming again. But it's really like coming to that image of the last judgment when it says in many parts of the catechism, that we will be judged upon our actions. And it goes back, I don't have it in here, but that part in the gospel when Jesus is talking to those and saying, when, Lord, did we see you begging and hurt in the streets, that we did not serve you? It's basically talking to that point of we will be judged upon the measures of fruits that we did. Did we take advantage? Did we take the talents that God gave us, and did we use them and multiply them? Did we serve him and take care of those who were in a lowly place that needed us, his children? Did we take care of them? Did we do his work? Did we produce good fruit? And we'll be measured upon that, and we'll be measured upon those things we didn't do. And that will decide, as it says, I can't remember if it said today, I think it did, and it talked about the shepherd that will tend his flock, and he will separate the sheep from the goats. And the sheep are the representation of us as good servants of God, those who are saints already, and those who are working for their sainthood. We're doing the good deeds here on earth. If we still are and Jesus comes tomorrow, we will be able to go on and go into the kingdom of heaven, whether or not that means we've got a purgatory in between there or not, to get us to where we can be in the presence of God. And those that will be judged and for their inactions will then be basically given over to Satan. Said, here you go. The rest of you are going to be isolated and without God, and it's not going to be fun. It's going to be pretty bad. And that's kind of what I get to tell them about tomorrow. Isn't that fun?
Super fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other kind of two other pieces was thinking of at the last judgment. So not only will our good deeds and our non-deeds basically be shown and laid bare, all of our life will be laid bare. Everything that we are, we will be able to see it. And one question that comes with this is, if we are able to be before God and able to see all of this creation, will we understand the mystery? Will it be the beatific vision is what it's called? We'll be able to fully see and understand the mystery. So Father John Ricardo the other day, he was talking about how if you're behind a beautiful tapestry and you look at the back of the tapestry, it's a hot mess. It's just a bunch of strings, and there's knots, and there's dust and bugs and all kinds of other stuff. And you can't tell what's going on. You would never be able to see that and understand that there is a beautiful image on the other side. So God, in his mercy, throughout our lives, as he gives us graces, we kind of are able to pop to the other side, and we get a little glimpse and go, oh, wow, that's so amazing. And then we get popped back to the other side with all of the rough strings and go, yeah, I don't remember exactly what that looked like. What was that again? So think of it as when we are in heaven at the last judgment and we get to see the entire plan. We get to see the front of the tapestry laid out before us, and we can go, oh, wow, this was amazing, and that's what the moment. And one of the questions I'm going to ask the kids is, or teenagers, if you were in that moment, what would you ask God? What would be that question about creation? And so I'm going to try to point it to a little bit more of, a little bit of the silly, like, which is better, dogs or cats? Some of those kind of things, but also kind of lend it towards, okay, well, are the people that I've lost, are they with you? Why did it take me so long to get to know you? And I'm going to use that as my own witness to, just say, I didn't know God. I didn't get to know Jesus until, I don't know, probably in my late 20s. I said yes to God in my early 20s, but I didn't start really talking to him till my late 20s, and I didn't get conversant with him until like the last 3 years. So maybe as a witness to that, I can, say some of that, or, if somebody has some questions about why do we suffer, or, why is this going on? Because some of these kids are going through some tough spots, so it might come up. We'll see where the Lord lends that conversation. But then, flipping from there, okay, the last judgment, then what does the kingdom of heaven look like, the eternal kingdom? And I'm using, I can't think of the name of the image, but it's John Van Eyck, I think is the artist. He was known for having like the most fine detailing in his oil paint works. So he has an image of a mirror that's on a wall, like a concave mirror, and inside the mirror are such fine details, and the painting is like the sheet of a paper. It's tiny, but you can use a magnifying glass, and like you can see the cup sitting on the table in the background, and it's, I don't know, like a 16th of an inch tall, and it's in detail. It's crazy, the stuff this guy did. So he did this one, which is part of a larger piece, and I believe it is on an altar or a high altar, where it shows the vision of the heavenly Jerusalem with the angels and saints all coming around, worshiping the Lord in adoration as the Lamb of God, and all of his servants, those in the church triumphant, the church militant, are all coming together in all of their variety to be there in the worship, into the Mass. But it isn't like they're not in a church building, because everything is the restored new earth. It is his new kingdom, which is kind of that restored Eden in some ways. And I don't know if exactly it's going to be a restored Eden, but there's kind of some language towards it, right? So I'm trying to give them some ideas of what that could look like. And then the last thing I was going to do, because one of the questions that's prompted is, okay, what are the things you can do now to prepare yourself for the coming of Jesus? And so I'm going to point to some not saints, but working on their way to be saints.
He's blessed.
Oh, he's blessed now.
Yeah.
Okay. So blessed Giorgio Frassati. He's not a saint yet. Blessed Chiara Badano. And I guess now blessed Carlo Acutis.
I don't know, actually. I'm not 100% sure.
Ironically, I think they're all Italian, but go figure. Maybe there was a thing going on in Italy back in the 1900s there. But I'm going to point to them to show, okay, here are people that God called them at different times in their lives, and he wanted them to do his will. And it wasn't necessarily the Maranatha, but it was the time in which they were called to start doing his good work and to bear his good fruits. So when they did come to the judgment, they were prepared and ready because they said yes. They said, I will. It was their fiat in those moments. So what do these all have in common? Okay, so they all spent time in scheduled prayer. Like, it wasn't just like willy-nilly, I'm going to pray when I feel like it, which I think most kids are probably at that point.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't even know how to schedule myself, so how am I supposed to schedule time with God? I'm too busy, which, did I tell you this? One of the guys in the retreat said, and I thought it was amazing, busy is just the acronym for busy underneath Satan's yoke, which is true. If you're just
but it's
busy,
an eye roll.
It is an eye roll in some degrees,
well,
but it's not.
It pushes back against the excuse. Like, it's a very easy excuse to make that you're
I know.
busy.
We're all
too busy.
so busy. We have so many things going on, but it's God, and you should make him a priority. So I thought it was an interesting way to think. Every time I think busy, I think, okay, am I truly busy? Maybe, maybe not. It gives me a pause rather than just the quick excuse to go, oh, you're so busy. You've got so many things. Look at what you're doing. You've got too much on your plate now, and you're just great, which can be the flattery of the devil.
You're fine.
Right?
You've done enough.
So they all spent time with God every day, scheduled time. They all read the word of God and listened to him in his word, tried to be open to him speaking to them through his word, which is, I think, kind of that graces of seeing the other side of the tapestry, every little glimpse that we get. And they went to confession frequently. They went to mass whenever they had it available, because some of them, it wasn't readily available like we have it on tap comparatively. And they all listened to the will of God. God called them to do things, and they did it in different ways. And then I'm going to end with a video of Blessed Chiara Badano of her story, and it's a sobering story. So if you don't know, we can put this YouTube link in the show notes. But she was called, from an early age. Her mother said she would send her off to daycare, and she would have a snack in her bag, because they didn't do a real meal. It was just like you had a snack time, and she would send her with a snack, and she would come back and she would find out from the teachers, well, she gave her snack again to another friend. And so the mom's like, okay, I can deal with this. So she put 2 snacks in there. What happens? She gives both the snacks away. This is like a 3-year-old, so she was kind of called to this at an early age. But then she finds out she has cancer when she's a teenager, and it's terminal. There's no coming out of this. What are you going to do? And she literally devotes everything that she has to God and becoming a bride of Christ. It's such a beautiful witness. It's sobering, but it's very, very beautiful to be able to see, this is what God is calling. And that's the radical side of it. But this is what he's calling us to do, to be in love and wooing with him. So I'm going to see where this goes.
It's a hard topic.
It's a hard topic. And these kids always give zingers, just completely left field will come out. So we'll see where it lands. I don't know, but I think it'll be good.
Don't be afraid to reel them back in.
Oh, I will.
Yeah.
I will.
I know you won't. You won't have any problem.
Yeah. It's like,
no, sorry. I didn't mean that. I know you won't reel them in, but you won't have problems doing that because
I know
you're
what
a dad.
you meant. Yeah. It'll be like when I taught, was it the 4th graders, 3rd graders, from when you started becoming the faith formation teacher.
Yeah, it was
and
a mix.
Stepped in.
So 3rd, 4th, probably.
Do you remember what they said about me at the end of the year? So at the end of the year, when we had the little celebration, we were doing the piñata and all of that stuff.
Oh, no. What did they say?
They said, we liked Mr. Sanders very much, but he was very strict. I'm like, I didn't think I was.
I guess compared to me, maybe.
Yeah. I guess. I don't know. I didn't give him slack. I mean, when my son's in the classroom and he's dorking off in the corner, gonna fall asleep, I'm like, hey, you gotta wake up. You gotta pay attention. This is where we're at. Terrence, why don't you read this section now? And then they all go, oh, he's going to call on us. Well, let's let us slack around. So maybe that's the dad in me. I don't know.
Maybe. Because, yeah, I always, I've just become wary of calling on kids to read in any of their grade levels. And it's partially because of Terrence having like difficulty with reading, and partially just from seeing other kids who really struggle with that, and it's like embarrassing to them. So I never call kids out to read anymore. I did that in the beginning, but that's probably just my own experience. But I mean, you called on your son, whom you knew would be able to read. It wouldn't be easy for him.
No.
But he could make it through.
Yeah, I called on some of the others too, because there were some rabble rousers in that classroom. But these middle schoolers make those rabble rousers look like little angels. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to do well.
Yeah. So let us know what you think. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much and it was somewhat cohesive. And you can drop us a line at catholichitch@gmail.com.
May the Lord guide and direct our journey.
Amen.